You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
784, the World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Mr. Green, and we have ourselves a nice one today. Good things to talk about. Maybe not such a good episode. Not a bad one, but not such a good episode either. But, you know, I don't think it's going to be a horrible discussion. We got a lot of things to get into. Going into the episode, of course, and rather than to go into the news, as I've been doing, it will still be part of the news, views, and updates section of the show. However, I'm going to address a couple of things, and then I'm going to go into some two different topics here. I thought that would be entertaining, if nothing else, or probably just enough to have a nice discussion. And maybe that you'll be able to discuss amongst yourselves or leave, comments below. But before I get going, I guess I should say that this is the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling podcast you are listening to at this time. I am your host, as stated earlier, Mr. Green. And let us begin with this bit of news as we go into the section that I like to call News, Views, and Updates. The former Dana Brooke, who now goes by Ash by Elegance, who I've been entertained by in the last couple of weeks on TNA Wrestling. Part of that being the little guy that's with her. I mean, he's such a great accomplice, manager, valet, concierge, whatever you want to call him. He's very good for her. Adds a lot of depth to where she might not have normally had it. But that's aside from the point. The real point here is, and the real story is that she has won her first ever championship. That's hard to believe. But Ash by Elegance has now won her first championship of her wrestling career. Like I said, formerly Dana Brooke. And Dana had been in the WWE for some time. And there actually was a Reddit that I had come across pertaining to her not all that long ago. And weirdly enough, I think she still gets, some, I don't want to say hate. Hate is probably too strong a word, but she still gets some flack about her as a wrestler. Now, I want to say this about Dana Brooke or Ash by Elegance, whichever one we prefer in this instance. I do not blame her for her lack of wrestling knowledge or experience. Largely because of how the WWE does things to begin with. The WWE, for a long period of time, would just sign people and then we'll just teach them how. That sounds familiar, but I guess we'll get to that later. In any case, the difference between the WWE doing it opposed to other companies, which I will not name, is that they have a major facility that can operate 24 hours a day, and if they're not there, they can. Have they gone back on the touring yet? At one point in time, they would be on tour in these small locations like any other indie, and they would, just take a house show tour with NXT just to get the reps in, just to give them the experience of being in front of a crowd, just to give them the experience of working live, whereas other companies may not be able to do that. But the point there is getting back to when I said that I don't blame her for it. No, I don't blame her for her lack thereof as a wrestler, because the WWE put her in a position, I want to say to fail, but it's not the first time they've done that. I forget the redhead's name. It escapes me at the moment. I'll probably think of it later on. But she was introduced on Total Divas. And, damn, sorry. I had to kill a bug there. Anyway, I don't know why I shared that. Yeah, I don't remember. Who was that? Who was she? Somebody out there saying it. I can't hear you, but somebody out there saying it. It like I said, it'll come to me a little bit later on. But she was Dana Brooke, Ash by Elegance was kind of like her. It was somebody that they found, that they saw, that they thought was good looking, and we can teach them everything they need to know afterwards. They can learn it while they're there. So they put them in these positions to where they're pretty much screwed. Your first impression is kind of an important one, but that was never a big deal for them. And how do you turn down a 6-figure contract when you coming out of college, or you've been a professional bodybuilder, and you might not know how you're making your next dollar or whatnot, but I mean, how do you turn that down? And so I'm pretty sure she took it just like everybody else would, and then if they didn't do anything with her, they didn't leave her in NXT long enough, she probably should have been in there for some years to learn what she was doing. They never bothered. So, she got placed up on the main roster. She got placed up probably underqualified to do what she was doing. Fast forward that, and we see Dana Brooke gets cut loose. She chooses to still stay involved in wrestling, and she goes to TNA. Good choice on her, because the door is open with TNA. There's a relationship there. And she could probably get some polishing that she sorely needs. She's getting much better. She's figuring out who she is and what she wants to do. And she's growing, which is everything that she should have had years ago. But they didn't bother to do that. So when we look at an article that says that she's winning her championship for the first time after being involved in wrestling up to 11 years at this point, I believe is right around there. It's surprising. At the same time, maybe not so much. But she's the WSW Women's Champion. So it is not a TNA championship. Let's make that clear. She won this championship at a independent promotion. But the fact that she's got it. And I'm sure, being that it's her first, she's probably in line to at least challenge for the TNA Knockouts Championship. I don't know if she'll win it. Well, let's be honest. If I'm going to go off a guess, I'm going to say she's gonna. But I'm sure it meant a lot. I'm sure getting that championship, whatever it happened to be, meant a lot for her. Just to say that it's a career goal that she's accomplished, and that a promoter out there, and it looks like a fairly high-end promotion, WSW, had enough faith in her to give her that shot. And I'm sure that, of course, they're getting something back out of that, because they got a major star or a major name that won their championship, which is only going to elevate their championship. But bravo to her. Congratulations to Ash by Elegance for winning her first championship after all this time. And maybe you'll see her in the promotion near you. Maybe your promoters out there will reach out and have her appear on the show at some point in time. Who knows? But I thought that was a nice little touch. And it gave a leeway to bring up the fact that, sometimes some people get placed in these situations where they just do not necessarily belong. I get it. I understand. It's hard to turn down the money. It's hard to turn down the position. But everybody doesn't belong there, and the companies I'm not gonna leave that to WWE alone. The companies don't necessarily do these young ladies favors when they do that. Just my opinion. So, I am still trying to think of who that was that is escaping me. It is driving me up the wall. I cannot remember her name. I just remember that one of the Bellas was mad at her for like, oh, she looks like me. I was like, what? How does that even work? Anyhow. And she left to do some acting. God damn it. What is her name? Let me go. Now I have to look. Eva Marie. It just hit me. Eva Marie. That's who it was. Another one who, although, yeah, she was terrible. She was terrible in the ring. I make no bones about that. But it's also a case of that's not necessarily totally her fault. She should have been trained well ahead of her being put up to anybody's main roster. But somebody there had a hard on for her and decided to put it on the main show, and that's how you got that. And that's happened more often than not just with the women. I don't mean the hard on. I mean, they might have that too. I don't know. But before I get off track with that, yeah, I mean, you can look up guys like Brackus and the Omega Man, just people that Vince McMahon just like, this is going to be my next star, and didn't really care if they could wrestle or not. He just liked to look up until they got into the ring and they couldn't do anything for anybody. No one cared about them. And so he went back to the tried and true, the people who actually wanted to be there and do this as a career. Imagine that. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next thing. And that next thing being, I listened to an interview by Medusa. You guys remember Medusa, right? The former Alundra Blaze, the former women's champion, the AWA, wrestled around the world, LPWA, Japan, WCW, WWE. She's pretty much been there. She's been a spokesperson for women's wrestling. Even in the NWA. She showed up there when they were just getting their stuff launched again. But she, on one of the podcast programs out there, talks about the AEW women's division, or more specifically, the women there not wanting to train. And I thought that was an interesting thing that she brought up, and I have to say, I don't know if I fully believe that is just a AEW problem opposed to an industry-wide problem. There are people who do not desire to be training for pro wrestling. They like the end result of pro wrestling. They like what pro wrestling provides them. They like the doors that pro wrestling might potentially open up depending on what level that they're on. Depending on what promotion they're in, they may like the paycheck. But there are some people out there who just want to be fast-tracked into having matches. And I say it's an industry-wide problem because that is not set to AEW or WWE or TNA or Ring of Honor or MLW or any other place. The indies in particular, especially the indies. And WoW isn't immune from that either. Now WoW asks for that. WoW asks for that problem because they actively seek these people out. But the end result is the same. Some people do not want to be there, and it's just less of an issue in some locations. AEW, I mean, we've all heard the stories. The guy in charge isn't really in charge, so he probably has some people that's just like, they're not making me do it, so I'm not gonna. You have some other people who will just do what is required, no more, no less. So they're not going to try to go someplace and try to get the reps in. I'm hired to be on this TV show, and that's all I'm ever going to do. And you can go on and on and on and on. But I thought it would be much better if you heard it from the woman herself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a clip of this so you can hear it out of her mouth, how she felt when, I guess I should set the scene a little bit here because I'm not going to play the whole thing. This is a clip of Medusa talk about how she felt when at an AEW show in the early stages when she was there. And Dustin Rhodes was offering a training, we'll say camp, for lack of a better term. And Medusa was very disappointed that almost no one showed up to go to the camp, learn something, watch him, and so on and so forth. And I don't know. I can't say it enough. It's not a problem that's just there. I heard the same problem when Ricky Morton went to NXT. I heard that same problem. And somebody else, because I think it became public after a while, is that one of the members of the Revival, FTR today, was like really disappointed with that no one wanted to sit there and listen to him talk about how to do this properly. Tag team wrestling. They ignored him. And that hurt him. It got him into his feelings. And he got up and had a speech and told them, you need to be paying attention to this man. He's forgotten more than you'll ever know, et cetera, et cetera. And it's kind of like what this situation is that Medusa's talking about here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the clip, and then we'll come back around, and we will, I guess, go further into it.
And I'm like, who wouldn't take advantage of that? So anyway, I went and I was talking. And then the next day I saw some girls and they walked out and I'm like, oh my God, hi, how are you? And they're like, oh, hi, nice to meet you, Medusa. And I said, great. I said, we had practice yesterday. We have it now. I said, are you coming? And she turned to me and said, practice? I don't have to go. And I said, what do you mean you don't have to go? She goes, I'm on the injured list. And I looked at her and she had her makeup all done. She's walking just fine. Everything's fine. But sometimes internally, you just don't know. She goes, yeah, I have a doctor's. I don't need to go. I don't have to practice. And I said, well, you look great to me. I said, why can't you sit outside the ring and learn something? She goes, it's voluntary and I don't need to show. And I'm not saying this person's name for a reason because I'll mention it probably later in another episode. But it really opened my eyes to what and how I see women, I'm not going to say all of them, how they may look at this business as. Is a meal ticket, is money only, or do they really respect it? Are they that much of a
All right. So as you heard, she did not unveil any names, but she did discuss the situation. And I'm sure that was very disappointing. If you want the unedited version of that, you should probably go tune into that podcast and hear it in its full glory. But yeah, that is a problem that I feel, and I'm pretty sure some others feel, that just reaches across the board. For whatever reason, you have some people, except for the ones who got into the business to be in the business, some who just do not feel like they need to do anything else. And honestly, I wouldn't even leave that to just the women. I would say there's guys out there that do the same thing, who just do not want to learn it. They want to be there and they want to do all the other stuff, but they don't want to learn the things in between that. Psychology, the timing, et cetera, et cetera. They want to learn how to do the moves. I've seen this firsthand at a wrestling school. Somebody who would have been a second generation wrestler, in fact. I was told directly about this individual. I will not bring up his name, that he likes being able to do stuff. He likes being able to slam people, but he don't like the bumps. And as of that, I don't know if I've ever seen him in a wrestling school ring or perform ever anywhere again. He was there for a couple of months. After that, he just kind of faded away. But I don't know what the solution is for that. I really don't, other than some wrestlers have to speak up about it if it's bothering you. Much like, I think it was Dash. I forget what his AEW name is now, but I think it was Dash Wilder at the time that did speak up on behalf of Ricky Morton. And cases like this with Medusa, it probably would take some other wrestler that they do respect to speak up and say something. You should be here. You should watch this. You should learn. It's not hurting you. It's not costing you anything. You should be learning something. Now, I don't expect that just to up and go away. In fact, I don't know if it can be fixed at all, especially when you're looking at it on the level preceding an AEW or preceding an MLW, preceding those other promotions. And on the indies is worse because the promoters, I don't want to say they leave an open door to it, but they don't necessarily lop it off either. Some of them do. I don't want to just put it off on everybody. Some of them will just say no. But I know several who've hired just because, that person talked them into it. I'll work for you for free. Okay, well, bring your bag in. After that is like whatever it is that they knew they were no longer concerned with. In fact, there was a situation that I can call off the top of my hands. Before I even get into that, I'm going to just say the bridging point of this topic being brought up is this is how people get hurt. This is how things like that happen in the ring. When you have people who just using it as a stepping stone, as implied by Medusa in that clip, or don't have a respect for the business, also as implied by Medusa in that clip. And you get several incarnations of that. I think I've come across at least 3, and none of them were pleasant. The one that strikes me or comes to my mind at this particular moment, since, might as well just share the story. It was a match I shot and later called. That was a triple threat. You can probably find it in my lineup. I don't remember the episode number. Brooklyn Creed, Sarah Dox, and a young lady named Megan Moxley. Now, I will mention her name here because I don't even think that she's still in the business. In that match, so she had gotten several bookings in and around the Southeast region, largely because she was either working exceptionally cheap, and I mean cheap like $20-$25, or she was working free altogether. I know that for a fact. Either she was working cheap or she was working free altogether. But in this particular match that I'm bringing up, and this might have been the second or third time that I interacted with her. Apparently, she, during a spot where she was supposed to clothesline Brooklyn and then get put out of the ring or something thereof, she was supposed to clothesline her. Brooklyn would have mounted to come back at some point and then gotten her finish in. She would have hit her with Scorched Earth, which was basically a full Nelson faceplant. But apparently, and it's not easy to see, let me just say that first. When Megan got the clothesline on Brooklyn, she hooked the clothesline and drove Brooklyn's head, the back of her head, down to the mat, which we used to call just rung her bell. Brooklyn said she was knocked out. Now, she wasn't fully knocked out, but she could not function at that particular, for a couple of seconds there. She couldn't see. That's what she told me. She was like, she could not like really focus and see. So it became evident really quickly, and the professional that Sarah Dox was, got Megan out of that ring to just move that away for a little while Brooklyn got herself together. Fast forward a second or two, She gets Megan back into the ring. Brooklyn takes her up, puts her into her finish. Megan cannot take that finish well because she doesn't know how to take it. It's one of the times that I'm like, okay, well, we're going to have to cut on the action for this because otherwise it's going to make Brooklyn's finish look terrible. So if you go and you watch it, you'll see that that's the reason why it cuts on that camera angle. It cuts on the impact because Megan couldn't take the move. She took it awfully. After that, Megan was confronted by Brooklyn in the backstage area. And Brooklyn was not happy. I think the first things out of her mouth was, "Who trained you?" And this is where it came to light to a lot of people in the locker room that Megan was not trained. Megan had never trained. Megan had gone to a seminar with Ricky Steamboat. She did a wrestling seminar without having done any wrestling training. That is where she learned, and then she just started booking herself out. And it didn't stop there. She was booked again on another show, which was an all-female event that took place here, different promotion. And Stormy Lee was the one that found out about it, and she made sure that Megan Moxley was not going to be on that show. Because she took that, for whatever reasons, took that seriously. So like, no, I'm not wrestling with somebody who is untrained in this locker room. Either she has to get out of here or I'm not going to do it. Once that got around, everybody started doing it. It's like, nope, we're not doing that. That's what it took. It took the locker room saying that because the promoter didn't. The promoter didn't pull the plug. The promoter didn't care that she was barely trained. All he wanted was a show. And it would have been up to the girl that she was in the ring with to make her look good. And that's the sad part. Because this happens. It happens in WoW. You get some people who are not fully trained or they can go through basic stuff. Then it becomes on the shoulders of the opposition or their opponent to try to carry the match to make them look good and not make themselves look bad at the same time. Getting back to that thing, and I'll wrap that one up. Stormy Lee, I think, took that personally. When I interviewed her, by her own admission, she said when she first got into wrestling, she was untrained. She thought she was trained. She said, I thought I knew what I was doing until she went to somebody who trained her properly. And that's when she figured out, and that's when she knew. She's like, I didn't know what I didn't know. And then that's how she found it out. And she went on basically to say that, it's a dangerous thing to have somebody in there like that. And, and she, again, fully admitted that the first time into the business, she wasn't trained like that. And she was almost like ashamed that she let herself do it and let herself believe that she was better than what she was. But at that point, when she was at that event, she had been doing it for a while. She had been on the indies. She had gotten proper training, so her perspective had changed. And so she knew having somebody there who just did a seminar. And by that time, that was becoming public knowledge. I don't know if everybody in that roster knew it, but it was becoming public knowledge. And Stormy just didn't want to deal with it. It's like she did not want to deal with that. And so Megan had to go. All of that to say, it is very important, not a issue that is directly on AEW's women or their men for that matter, because we've heard the same thing there. That some guys that they do not want to ask questions, they don't want to learn. That's just an industry-wide thing. It is across the board. Now, just briefly, I'm a little bit out of sequence because this is something I'm going to present as the result of something that was said during the WoW broadcast. Now, this isn't part of that review, but I have to share. I have to, because some of that stuff just drives me nuts. During the broadcast, at some point, Nigel Zane puts WoW over as having the best women's tag team division. I no longer agree with that assessment. Now, if you'd asked me that a year ago, I was like, yeah, they probably had the best women's division in women's wrestling. But that largely because they had the largest. And they were just getting started. They hadn't had anything to offset that or change my opinion about it or make me feel like, oh, well, maybe, NWA or TNA or whatever might be better. That's a year ago. I agreed. Today, not so much. And I wanted to go through that. Why don't I agree? Because I don't just do that and just like, oh, look, I'm say it just to say it. I usually have criteria built around that. So I'm going to share my criteria for what the best women's tag team division is. I openly welcome anyone to leave the comments. If you have anything to add, if you feel like my rating is should be adjusted or whatever the case may be. But here are my criteria for tag teams or citing top tag teams. Number 1, teams both on the roster and teams brought in to compete. I think that's a fair starting point. Whomever you have on that roster already, and I'd say whoever's brought in to compete, usually I apply that when I'm talking about independents or some other promotions, because some like to bring in another just to spice up the division, so to speak. That was number 1. 1A is the presentation of said teams, which is very important. And we'll get back to that. Number 2, the quality of matches. They are taking a hit in that regard already. But again, I'm not going to go into it just yet, and I'm certainly not going to go match by match. But you can already feel is making a turn. And 3, championship perception. How are the champions / the championship viewed by the overall audience, by the fans at large? How do they accept this particular thing amongst all the things? If that makes sense, right? Do they look at them as stars? Do they look at this tag team championship like it's the most important championship in the world, or the most important one in this particular line of wrestling? Tag teams, obviously. So those are the things that I personally look at. If you have any other criteria that you would apply in this situation, feel free to let me know. But those are the things that I broke it down to. And on my list, I have these columns. For presentation, in-ring work, promo work, and for those who had the championship reign. It is a non-qualifier for everybody else. So I took every team that is active in WoW right now and wrote them down to break them into this list. Keep in mind, there are some exceptions here. 1, the Tonga Twins are included, despite the fact that they did quit and or were fired. The Twins are still actively being shown on TV, so their run in WoW, even though they're physically not there, is not over with. 2, I have to judge Las Bandidas on the merit of Sanchez and Angel Rose opposed to Sanchez and Rivera. Rivera's gone. We're having to deal with version 2. Same rules apply for the Heavy Metal Sisters. We're having to deal with version 2. All right? So those are some of the ones that I have in here that I applied as a little bit of a exception. Okay? So now let's get into the actual ratings. This is A to F, just like you would back in school. So it's easy to follow. Top of that list of teams is going to be the Mother Truckers. Now, the Mother Truckers have been noted on this podcast as having the most winningest record that you could probably find in tag teams and WoW overall. They've had successful championship defenses since they've gotten the belts, although they have not had a lot of them. They won against Miami Sweet Heat. They defeated IQ Superior, which was not some sort of great feat because IQ Superior loses all the time. They defeated Animal Instinct twice. And I don't know if they've been back in. Have they shown back? Well, they came in and they did the 6-person tag with the Aerial Sky. And they also had another match with the Miami Sweet Heat. So they've had a reasonable run, not a great one. The presentation to them, because of that, because the Wild keeps them fairly strong, I have to say is an A, regardless of whether I like the Mother Truckers or not. Anybody that's listened to this knows that I really don't. The in-ring work is a C because I feel like they have to slow it down for the benefit of the people that they're working around, particularly Holly Swag. I think that she has to minimize what she knows and what she can do to help out whoever she's in there with. And she's got to bump. She's got to bump around. She makes them look good, whoever she's in there with. That is usually her role. So I think they're good with that. The promo work, again, I do not personally care for them as a promo. But in the Wild Universe, and I hate to say it, in the Wild Universe, they probably get more time to talk than most other people, and I hate the trucker puns and y'all got your ears on. I hate that they go into tossing it into super duper country bumpkin mode, but it is what it is, and I must judge accordingly, so we'll give them a B for promo. The championship reign. Despite the fact that they've won everything, I'm going to give their reign a D. Just because it's been Animal Instinct. It's been Team IQ Superior. Like the one team that they've beaten that has some sort of credibility on them is Miami Sweet Heat. Other than that, the other 2 or 3 teams that they've wrestled mean nothing. Like the Animal Instinct's nothing, and IQ Superior is nothing. So make of that what you will. So that's their grade. The next team, Miami Sweet Heat, they get an A in presentation. They get that because in their presentation, they've always been shown as being a top level team, regardless of whether most people agree with it or not. They've been presented as relatively top level. In fact, I would say they've been presented as being a level above 99% of the teams that's there. They really don't have any downslide to them. They have held the championships 3 different times. So their presentation as far as WoW is concerned is pretty big. The in-ring work is about the same as what I said with the Mother Truckers. They're a C. They do good enough, but they're not necessarily outstanding. The only thing that drops them down to a C is that they have these moments where they're in the match where they may just stop what they're doing so they can, like, what's going on? What are you doing? They look lost, or they're just waiting on the next thing to do so that they can try to transition into something else. But that if it weren't for that, if it were not for those moments, and I could probably pull up a match, particularly that, what was it? It was the hardcore match when Lindsay had that, she had a force field in front of her so she wouldn't go off and save her sister. Like she should have did something. Like, get over there and help your sister out. But that didn't happen. So anyway, they have fair in-ring work. The promo work is a no. It is a D. Their promos come across, even though they deliver it with a lot of oomph and a lot of fire, it also comes off like a preconceived thing. Like, all right, let's get in the back and practice this, and let's get our catchphrase together. Money, 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 money. It's like, and it's not over. So, yeah, stuff like that. The championship reign, however, I will probably give them a B. They've held it longer. They've won, the 3 times already. Originally, I wrote it down for a C, but if I'm going to be fair, I was like, they are probably the most winningest tag team championship-wise that WoW has ever had. Now we're talking about the entirety of their company history. The Tonga Twins. This is rating before they leave the show. Presentation is a B. Also shown very strong in WoW. Can't deny that, regardless of whether they hate WoW or not. In-ring work falls into a C, just like everybody else so far. The promo work is an F. They did not get it. Now, we're not talking about whether they can speak. We're talking about whether they have spoke. And I go back to that one time they had this sit-down interview, and they spoke all of 30 seconds, and then it's like, all right, we're done. So, yeah, they get an F because they never got a chance to really sit. They talked in like sound bites on the show. Yeah, we're going to do this. Come on, sis. That's pretty much it. You never heard anything beyond that. So they get an F for promo work. The championship reign that they had is a D because it's pretty forgettable. I really wish that I could say that there was something that was going on, but like with Miami Sweet Heat, there was an ongoing story, whether it was done well or not. We're not talking about how well it was performed, but Miami Sweet Heat's story was the Tonga Twins were chasing them. So there was something that was constantly going on with Miami Sweet Heat, and in between that, they would take on these other teams, right? The Tonga Twins, once they won those championships, really did not have all that much to do. They just were there. So on that alone, the championship reign is a D. Las Bandidas presentation is an F. They've never been presented well. They got their one win in as of this recording, but then they lost immediately following that. In-ring work is an A. I think they do good together, but they just are not presented to win. Promo work is a non-accolable, or you can either put that or you can put an F, but either way, they don't get a chance. Well, I guess we'll just stick with F. They don't get a chance to say all that much. They haven't done anything. So we will have, no. Let me rewind that, because at least with the Tonga Twins, even though they spoke in sound bites, they spoke. They were not good, but they spoke. Las Bandidas, I don't remember them saying much, especially not this version of them. The Heavy Metal Sisters, version 2. Presentation's been an F. This incarnation of the Heavy Metal Sisters has not really done all that much. It was just a team that was slapped together that we all knew was going to happen because Rebel Hayes had to be there at some point. So there she is. The in-ring work is a C. Fury is pretty much carrying that now. To be fair to Hayes, she is working on it. She's not terrible, at least not at this moment, but she brings it down a little bit just on little nuances in the ring. Promo work is a D. They have talked longer, but they haven't had a lot of substance in what they're talking about. Rebel Hayes is a overacting cartoon, so we'll move on from that. Exile ranks as incomplete because they started breaking up, and that whole team story has been, I'm the leader. No, well, I can't even say no, I'm the leader. It was, I'm the leader, now I don't want to be here. So it was just a slew of ridiculousness for weeks. And it disqualifies them out of everything. Presentation, in-ring work, promo work. Holidead and Chantilly Chella. New team. It's WoW's resident odd couple. Presentation has been a C because they're still building. So I think they're doing average. The in-ring work has been a B. They have done well together. There's been some flub ups, yes, but they seem to do fairly well together. Promo work is NA, non-applicable. Applicable. I can't even say it. We can't apply it here because they haven't done any promo work. Siren and Chainsaw. I put down not tagged up enough. So the presentation is also not applicable here. The in-ring work is about a C. The promo work is a B, and is a B because of Nina Monet. That is the only thing that carries them to having any sort of good promo work there. Or Siren the Voodoo Doll if you want to go off of her wild name. The Mighty Mites. Presentation has been a C. I hated the way they came out of the gate. They have worked themselves back up, but they're still working themselves back up. In-ring work, A. I like what they do. I just think that there's a portion of them that's being wasted there. Promo work is a... The promo work has to be, I was going to say non-applicable, but that's not true. They actually have said something, but it was very short. They're going to fall in the same category as the Tonga Twins. It's like, all right, we're going to speak in puns and very short. And I don't think Dave McClain allowed them to talk all that much to begin with, so F. The Dojo Defenders, so we can make that quick. They don't have a presentation. Their in-ring work is almost inconclusive. I will leave that as a C. The promo work also is not applicable here. They haven't. I know that they've spoken on IG. I know that they have some stuff like that, but we're going off of things that we have seen on television because that's where it counts. And they have no wins, so that goes back into the presentation. Top tier doesn't do standard tag. They are disqualified off of this. I did rank them just because. So if I were going to do it, even though I'm leaving it officially as they're disqualified out of it because they basically have only done triple threat. Not triple threat, 6-person. Trios, if you will. But the presentation has been a B. They present them very well. The in-ring work largely has been good. I would say that is an A, in fact. You probably can thank Glitter and maybe the ambition of Candy Crush for that. And Promo work, I will leave that as a C. They're average. And it largely leans on Coach, who has not really been able to change the tune of her promo. It's all in the same gear. She would get it higher for me if she could turn it every once in a while. But once she starts in Coach mode, it's basically Coach mode. Say some stuff. You know, she delivers good for who she is, how she's an exceptional, well, I shouldn't say exceptional athlete, but better than everybody else, which is what most heels give, and then polish it up with "you're welcome." That's what that's what it would be if I was putting that as a team. They would be like C, average. Team IQ superior, an F for presentation, a D for in-ring work, and an F for promo work. They are terrible. It is a rotating team. They don't do anything. They're not worth the time. The Brat Pack presentation has been a D, and I hate saying that because I like the Brat Pack. In-ring work has been an A. Probably better than what that place deserves. Promo work has been a C. Because they don't really do promos. They do the rap, and that's only BK Rhythm, and it doesn't really go anywhere. Average, at best. The All-American Girls presentation has been a C. They haven't been presented badly, but they haven't been presented great either. In-ring work, also the same thing. It's not bad, but it's not great. Promo work is a D. Because who there is really talking? I mean, Santana Garrett does good for her, but I don't know if they do anything beyond that. Especially Americana. She's going to drag that average down. Grits and Glam also haven't teamed up enough. They only did the one run against the All-American Girls, like the 3 matches that they had when they came back in. So the presentation is kind of non-existent. The in-ring work is good. It's a B, better than most. And the promo work is an A. Both Jesse Jones and Amber O'Neal can get on the microphone and do their business. The in-ring work would probably be an A if they had done it more. It's just that they don't do it enough. Animal Instinct. They are a D in presentation. Because the only thing that they present is just them walking around and they happen to have some animal-related gimmick that connects them. In-ring work, also a D. They aren't bad, but they're pretty basic. And I would venture to say, if that match isn't laid out in full in front of them, they probably wouldn't be able to do it. Now, that's my guess. I don't know that. That is my guess. If either one of them want to correct me about that, feel free. My email is open. There's enough people there that know what the email is, and you can find it pretty swiftly. The promo work is an F because it's all animal puns. It's the same nonsense that any other character in WoW would use. Spring Break 24/7 FFF. Presentation, in-ring work, promo, all of it. F. They just... anyway, moving on. I don't even know I would bother with that. Team Spirit, same thing. FFF. Presentations an F. In-ring work is an F. The promo work is an F. And is that an asterisk by Team Spirit? Because I don't even know why they put this team together. It's like, what was the point in having this team there in the first place? And finally, only because they've been announced, I wrote down the Fierce Sisters, but I cannot rank the Fierce Sisters because they haven't done anything. They haven't had any presentation or very little. They haven't had any match where we can see it in-ring work or their promo work. We saw a promo. But like I said, the promo work that they did when I saw it was basically a giant wow blow me session. I love being here. Well, it's great. I love my sister. She taught me everything I know. And so on and so forth, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think that was a good chunk of my hour and then going over the tag teams. So now I think it's time to go into the review. We can have some fun there in this largely boring show that they presented. But we will do that just after the break. So we'll take a pause, get the break in, then we'll be back, and we will go into the full review of WoW Women of Wrestling. All right. So here we are. This is the review of the episode of WoW, which air date was June 29th. The season number is 242. Chronological number is 94. The title, Outsmarting the Champion. And before I even begin, let me just go ahead and say that it is not fully a case of whether or not they could have a decent match. This is not all that this is judged on, in case anybody wants to know. Some of this is the presentation. A lot of it is the presentation, and a lot of it is whether this makes any sense or not as to why they would do certain things, when they did it, and how they did it. But we will get to that because it won't take long. The show starts off with the commentators opening and running down the main event. And they try to put over the Classmaster. David McClain is over animated on camera. And I don't know if it's just me, but he seems like he's becoming more over animated. Like, put the camera on me, guys. You know, it feels like that. And I don't know, like I said, I don't know if it's just me, but that's how it's beginning to come across. The first segment is Top Tier versus the Dojo Defenders and Sierra Breeze. Not important in the match, but the first thing I noticed is that the ring announcer like towers over Top Tier. I don't know why that got my particular attention at that moment. I was like, what? She looks gigantic next to them. Anyhow. They're taking I already said it, the Dojo Defenders and Sierra Breeze. It is noted that Sierra Breeze, according to David McClain, the first Bohemian wrestler ever, which I do not think is true. I looked it up. I found other Bohemian wrestlers, so I do not think that Sierra Breeze is the first. She might be the first in WoW, but I fully doubt that she is the first Bohemian wrestler ever. I mean, they had wrestling dating back to 1960 in the Bahamas. So I don't know if Sierra Breeze would be the first. It's a nice thing to say, but it's kind of like what I said with the mariachi band that he brought in there. It's like I wouldn't say things that are easily disproven or that you could just Google and look up. Breeze has a nice star quality to her, at least at this moment. I don't know how long it's going to take before WoW runs it into the ground, but as of right now, she does what I think very well. The Dojo Defenders also, I think they do all right. I mean, the match in and of itself is entertaining. It's an entertaining match. And we don't need to go through the play-by-play of it. But I will say, I don't know what was happening at the beginning there. They had like a pose off of some description. It starts off with Glitter and Sierra Breeze. Glitter's doing her pulse thing, taking her pulse at her neck, and Breeze is looking at her like, ooh, got that look on her face. And then she starts doing her dance in the ring. And for whatever reason, she decides that she's going to dance and turn her back onto Gloria Glitter so she can get hit in the back of the head. Which is why I was like, all right, here we go with this. So we're going to let that go. And then they start off the match. And it's fine. Glitter is pretty good here. And I think this is, especially at the end, more of a showcase for her rather than anybody else. And I think there was also a point, and there was somebody in the roster is probably going to either Glitter or Breeze or somebody else there is going to have to verify whether I'm right or not here. In the first couple of seconds in the match, Glitter has Sierra Breeze in the corner. She whips her out. She shoots her cross. Breeze kips up off of the turnbuckle, but Glitter isn't there yet. So she would have gone over top of her, but she didn't come in time, I guess, or something to that effect. Or maybe she got the spot wrong, and that's what I'm feeling like. I think that she got the spot wrong. So Glitter comes in, and she charges and she nails in the back. Boom. I was thinking on her feet if that were the case, because they turn right back around and they do the same exact spot. She shoots her off, charges at her. This time, Breeze is able to get across, and then it turns into a couple of arm drags, and the match is underway. But because they repeated the spot as well, I was like, all right, maybe that was not the way it was supposed to happen the first time. Possibly it was just a little miscalculation on one or both parts. It was nice between Breeze and Glitter, and then they both tag out, and then it's Campanelli and whoever the other one is, I think Tara Strike. I have to thank Zantara for actually telling me which ones was what, because I just started referring to him as Defender Black and Defender Silver. Because I was like, I'm not going to try to remember Tara Strike and Kara Kai or whatever the hell their names are. They're just so absurd. Anyhow. So the match continues on, and the Dojo Defenders are doing a good job, but they're not the story here. It gets back to Breeze being in the ring, and the heat is got on Sierra Breeze. So the getting the teams mixed up. The top tier starts putting the heat on her. They do the rotating door thing, beating her up in the corner, which is fun for a top tier. And they look good. I mean, it goes back to what I said, the presentation of the team, not just in terms of where they are in the hierarchy of WoW, but the look of the outfits and, just their stature. They start to look like stars, and they look like a unit. And they don't just look like, what's a nice way to say it? They don't look cheap. And I don't mean them, the persons. I mean like the presentation. Look at top tier presentation and then look at the Dojo Defenders. The Dojo Defenders look like as basic as you could possibly get. There's black and white and some pseudo gis that imitate being in a karate dojo somewhere. But anyhow, moving forward, they get the heat on Breeze. Right? And they do all this, and I guess they pretty much set up at some point to have the hot tag from Sierra Breeze. I'm sure that's what it was all leading to. I don't know how well this executed in practice opposed to how it was in application. Coach Campanelli has Breeze in the ring. I mean, it looked great. Let me just say that. The tag looked great, but I don't know if it got the reaction that it should have. Coach Campanelli has Breeze in the ring. She's choking her out, which basically lifts her up to the top rope. She's sitting down on the turnbuckle. Campanelli charges back, or comes back in. She catches a foot, which turns her around. And then Breeze leaps across and makes the tag, and then there we go. Campanelli just goes out and tags off to Candy Crush. And I think that is part of the reason why that particular tag, I don't know if it really got the pop that it should have. I don't think it got that, but, I don't know if they really cared or not whether they popped the crowd. So the tag is made. And I think who was this? Kai gets into the ring and is against Crush. Now I know what they were trying to do with this particular combination. There's a portion in the ring where they had a exchange of strikes. And what we got was Crush ducking one kick, ducking the next, and then they both allegedly hit each other at the same time, with one catching with an uppercut, the other one catching with a kick to the side of the head. Problem with that is that we didn't see that. As nice as that might have been, is that we did not, on camera, catch this dual knockout. It just looked like Kai hit her and then fell. Like there was really no reason for her to fall over that way at that point in the match. She wasn't like she was tired. She just came in. It wasn't like there was an obvious hit to her head or something like that. It just, like I said, it was whether it happened or not, whether she actually connected or not, whether it looked better or not in front of the camera or the people in the audience, whether any of that took place, we as the audience member did not see it. We didn't catch that punch. So it loses something in that. It loses a little bit of, not credibility, but it loses a little bit of what they were going for out of that. It just, the TV aspect works too. I mean, the TV aspect means something too. And if they don't have that to where we can see the things that people are trying to do, it can sometimes leave your audience a little confused. Like, what happened there? Like I said, when you're looking at it, all it looks like is that Kai just goes down just because she goes down. It doesn't really seem like there was any reason for her to fall other than that. So, there we have it. Moving on. So they go down to the mat, and both of them are crumpled up in a heap. And now we're looking to make a tag. So who was it? Kai gets out, and she's going to make it to strike. Except Campanelli comes down there and yanks her off of the mat because they didn't see her walking around. Crush tags into Glitter, and Kai tags into, I wanted to say Sierra Mist, but thinking of the drink. Breeze. I don't even think they make that drink anymore. But it's like, so Sierra Mist, damn. Sierra Breeze gets in the ring, and she's in there with Glitter. And they have a nice exchange. Just move and counter move for a second or two. Part of the thing that gets lost in there is that the camera did go out and look at Campanelli, although I understand why they did it, because you needed to see why the other members of the Dojo Defenders did not get in there and help. Because Coach Campanelli had already taken care of them. So inside of the ring, we got a jackknife pin by Sierra Breeze after she gets a attempted roll-up. It was Glitter attempting her aerobic annihilator, Breeze countering that to a jackknife pin, Glitter rolling it through, double hooking the arms, and then changing it back into an aerobic annihilator. For those who don't know what the annihilator is, it's her version of a pedigree. And then she nails it, and there's 1, 2, 3, we're done. So top tier win again. Good for them. And then the next thing that we get is a promo from Campanelli after the match. Something that every heel has to do. And they do the same thing that every heel does. They start talking to David. And then they say they had, because everything else is unimportant. Then they say, we got business to deal with, David. We're coming up there. So they pretty much invite themselves into the commentator booth. And I guess Dave McClain, despite the fact that he can make rules anytime he wants to, just has no alternative but to allow them to come in there. Like, you know, what else am I going to do? I can't stop them. So they go in there and they sit down with David. The new baby faces lose again. Those baby faces being the Dojo Defenders and Sierra Breeze. Fine, but, you know, whatever. This is one of those points before I even go further where I can say that the promo that Campanelli did, she probably needs to work on that just a little bit. Or whoever wrote it for her. Either way, if she did it on the spur of the moment, or if somebody wrote it down for her, they need to work on the material. It's not that she did bad. Campanelli actually delivers good promos. She has great delivery. It just, like I said earlier, the content of what she talks about doesn't really change, and it needs a little bit of variation there. The other thing that made me really stand out, or made me write this to stand out, to bring it up, I should say, is she should have thought of better material to get Gloria Glitter over. Not just say, you know, here we have on my left Candy Crush, a boxer, and then we got Gloria Glitter, aerobics. I was like, okay, you probably should have thought that through and come up with something that sounds better. Get the team over. And it's not that difficult. Say the most finely tuned athlete in women's sports, Gloria Glitter, can easily do an hour in the ring, you know, with her bare hands, not even breathing hard. Compliment the things that people know to be true and that they can see, and they wouldn't doubt, at least not off the rip. They can look at her and say that she's conditioned, so sell the conditioning. Not just great in cardio and aerobics. Word it differently. Phrase it differently. Why would being good in cardio and aerobics be anything useful to top tier unless you explain that to the audience? And what I just said is the explanation to that. She's the most finely tuned athlete in women's sports. Now, I wouldn't even say wrestling, women's sports. There's not a woman in basketball, football, golf, volleyball, baseball, softball, anything else under the sun that can do what Gloria Glitter does. Anyway, I'm sure they'll come up with better material than that, than what I have given. We'll see as time goes on. But no, I would actually have Campanelli work on that. It's like, let's change that so that when you put Crush over, Glitter doesn't come off like secondary to that. They need to be presented as equal parts to top tier's unit. And I'm sure she wasn't trying to. It just, you know, it just didn't seem like she had anything good to say. And so by proxy of that, it just didn't work out. Not in my opinion. Next segment was Las Bandidas and All-American Girls. Now, this is what started the bother. This is the section where I was getting annoyed with the show. So we got the All-American Girls who've already got some issues with top tier. And the entirety of top tier sitting in the commentating booth. And at no point does it cross David's mind that something might happen. Even though every time heels stay there in the commentator booth, they always attack. So why is this somehow shocking, or he doesn't know better? And we've already established that he can make the rules anytime he feels like it. I can do it, you know, I'm banning, I'm doing this. You know, you got to stay in the locker room, boy. I'm giving you a title shot. He can do whatever he wants. But it's like it turns on and it turns off, you know, when it's convenient. And this is one of those points where it's like, all right, well, it's convenient for me just to be the commentating guy and not to be the person in charge, which drives me nuts. I can't stand it. So top tier remain at ringside. And they drag David McClain into the story because they have to drag David McClain into the story because he's got to be involved in every goddamn story. Campanelli implies that All American girls keep intervening in their matches. The first thing I was thinking is like, well, how many times did they intervene? I only seen them like really come across their path once. Am I forgetting one? Did they do this multiple times that I'm not aware of? When did this happen? So I didn't necessarily get that. It's just the start of them saying stuff just to say stuff. All American girls, their first official act of being in the ring after getting up on the ropes and turning their backs is to get jumped by Las Bandidas because, well, just because. I guess they're just stupid baby faces. Like, let's stand here and look at the crowd and just completely ignore Las Bandidas over there. But, you know, it was fine. I cannot, I don't want to get on them too bad for that because that does happen. Now, it made it worse that it happened again, but we'll get to that. And I want to say one other thing. At least the referee in there didn't look like he just kind of parted the seas and let them do it. They charged past him. Not like Scheinberg, who literally stood there like, okay, and then backed up and let them go get jumped in the whatever match that was. It was dumb. So let's go into the match. Not bad, but I don't know where this was going. It was another cold match. It was fine. This is moved to the end. There are portions in this where Americana looks lost. Sorry to say it, but she does. She still got the doe in the headlight, the deer in the headlight look. She still sells like a cartoon. It's not getting particularly better. I will say, and I keep repeating, physically speaking, I'm sure she is fine and she could do a good chunk of the stuff. It's just very, very, very over-exaggerated in most cases when she's getting choked, when she's getting punched, when she's doing much of anything. And the one thing that saved her from just looking like a complete ditz when she was getting choked in the corner is that the camera was being blocked by Sanchez's arm. She was in the way, so you couldn't really see, her face all that much until they went to the other camera and then decided to show you. I was like, oh boy, well, they should have just left it on the other side so she looked like she was. Let me make sure everybody knows that I'm choking. Whoa! She always has this look on her face like she's just ready to make some Hanna-Barbera noises or something. Anyhow, so we get that. This match is loaded with foreshadowing. That was the other note that I put in there. This match is loaded with foreshadowing. The match itself was not important. It was fine, but it wasn't important. The match is just there as a placeholder to get us to the next thing. And that happens sometimes. It's happened almost every place I've been. You have a match that just kind of is there just to move you to the next thing. And this is what this was. And it's just awful. You knew it was coming a mile away. You knew it was coming. Top tier just sitting there just because. And the All-American girls, the people that they just was in the ring with or just got jumped by, I shouldn't, maybe not jumped, saved their friend Ariel Sky from the clutches of the evil top tier. The point is that they had some interactions and they probably shouldn't be there because it seems like it would be personal, but I guess David McClain did not think of that. So Santana Garrett gets tagged in. She comes in and does the hot tag thing and cleans up on the All-American girls. This is following Americana saving herself from a double suplex, and she turned into a neck breaker. And then she is desperately struggling to try to crawl over and make this tag, and it looks terrible because they went to the wrong camera shot. That probably does not work as well when you're looking at it from above with the aerial shot. Now, I'm not going to put this on Americana. I am not. I give her a lot of flack. I know I do, but I'm not going to put this on Americana. And the reason I say they probably shouldn't take an aerial shot with this is because it shows how small the ring is. It shows that it's not that much space there. And even if she was dead tired, the average person watching that doesn't believe it. So they would look at this and be like, why didn't she just reach her hand out? So you want to remove that element of disbelief and have them where you could see that she's trying to get there, possibly a counter shot from through Garrett's legs or behind Garrett or the hard cam shot. And even then, that's kind of pushing it, but you get what I'm saying. The aerial shot isn't really all that complimentary to this hot tag scenario. So, but like I said, getting back to the point, she makes the tag. Santana Garrett comes in. She does the cleanup thing. Beating up on both Las Bandidas. Send them into the turnbuckle. Sanchez in first, rolls in afterwards. It is Sanchez that it ultimately comes down to when the springboard reverse handstand springing elbow into the corner that Garrett likes to do takes out Rose. And then she's left in there with Sanchez. She puts her up on the top rope, hooks her with a head scissors, gets for the pin, 1, 2, 3. It was a fine pin. It just also seemed a little anticlimactic. It's like the audience was not aware or ready or knew that this was coming or felt like this would have been the end in the first place. This is like, oh, well, okay, 1, 2, 3. So they cheered. They had some nice applause. It just didn't seem to really do anything for the overall audience. And the second that was done, what do you think happened? After they get together, get their hands raised, and they hug each other, well, top tier comes in and comes to jump them again. And why did David allow this? Why did he sit there? And not only did he just sit there, him and Nigel Zane called the attack like it was just part of the match. Oh my gosh, David, they're going into attack. Hey, Nigel, there they go. It was like it was just ordering a sandwich or something like that. It was just as plain as it could be. It wasn't like there was any urgency placed in this. It was just, all right, guys, they're being attacked. So there we go. And then Ariel Sky comes out with the bucket to save the day. Why does she still have this bucket? I don't know. It's not important. I guess she really wants to be a water. For somebody who doesn't want to be a water girl, I don't know why she would be carrying this bucket around. And she cuts a fairly dry promo. And she's doing the same thing that she's been doing. And like every promo that she does has to suggest, be built around, or allude to, I thought I had proven myself. Coach, you taught me. I was like, change the goddamn tune already. Get something else. Why is she locked in this orbit of, Coach, how could you? I was like, who is writing this stuff that has been hurt in their life that is playing this out through this young lady? Because whoever it is like this, somebody's looking for some forgiveness from a mom, a dad, a husband, a wife. I don't know who or what. But there's no way that this story exists without somebody in there like, yeah, this is going to be great. This is masterful. She should get forgiveness for being Coach's idiot. It doesn't seem like, fortunately, that we're going to lean back into. I hope not. God, I hope not. It doesn't look like we're going to lean back into her trying to get some sort of forgiveness, but I honestly cannot doubt it because she keeps peppering that in somehow. Like the ultimate payoff here is for Coach to get up and be like, I approve of you or something. And if that happens, you should just turn your TVs off and just ban WoW from your homes. You shouldn't watch it another day if they do something that dumb. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. But if they do something that stupid, you should just stop watching. Las Bandidas is back to their losing ways. They had one good week where they won something, and now they're back to just being who they were. So, Angel Rose, it was nice seeing you there. It was a nice addition to the team, but you make no difference. And Bandidas is back to being Bandidas. This promo looks like it's there to set up a challenge for their worthless Wild Trios trophy. I have no idea why they even have another trophy. That still boggles my mind that this person could take the trophy that they would advertise for weeks and smash over the back of somebody and then allegedly Wild just provide them a new one. The All-American girls and Ariel Sky seem to be on a collision with top tier as a whole. I don't know if I'm looking forward to this. I will say this much. Gloria Glitter and Santana Garrett, when that match takes place, future tense for us, past tense for them, I hope they had their working shoes on. Because I cannot imagine what kind of match happened with Americana and the Aero Sky on the same team. That just sounds like the blind leading the blind. Moving on. Next segment. Classmaster Samantha Smart backstage walk to the ring. Classmaster is in goofy comedy mode reading a book like always. Which is why I cannot take her seriously. I can never take her seriously because of that and the gimmick that she has. Next segment, the Heavy Metal Sisters versus Holidead and Chantilly Chella. Zane brings up Fury was trained by Robert Gibson, which is true. When she was there as Harlow O'Hara. Had the pleasure of probably calling her first few matches. I mean, I think by the time I came across her at that point, she might have been at match 3, 4, or 5 by that time. It wasn't a lot. But yeah, at that point, she was out there getting some experience. I remember calling the match, which is the Battle Royal, Triple Threat, Mixed Tag, Singular match. I mean, you know, she got a couple of them in before she started wandering the world. But it was a nice little nod that Zane brought up. 3 of the 4 wrestlers in this match are beyond WoW, in my view. Fury, Holiday, and Chantilly Chella. I have absolute faith in all 3 of them. McLean during this match often sounds like he's talking about random stuff. And the best way I could put it is that, you know, the note that I have here is I had a coworker, CeeLo. He doesn't mind me using his name. Or at least his nickname. And he is unlike the rest of the coworkers in the room in that he actually is a wrestling fan. He watches WWE. He's giving up on AEW right now. But some other independents, he watches all of those. And honestly, right now, I'm impressed. He's going back through, for whatever reasons, he's tasked himself with watching the Attitude Era, like month by month, And not just WWE. He's watching, I shouldn't say Attitude, he's watching the Monday Night War. So he picks a week and a month, and he gets the episodes of Raw, Nitro, and the ECW that aired that week, and he just watches those. And then whatever pay-per-view is leading into that, based on those shows, he watches that. And he just repeats the process. So all of that to say, he's a little bit more knowledgeable about the wrestling and more accepting to it than 9 out of the 10 people that's in that room. And he looked at this and he was listening to it, seeing me write my notes. And he's listening and he's listening. And then he looks up at me and says, does this commentator ever talk about the match? And I was like, oh my God. But I couldn't say anything. I was like, you're right. And yes, we know David McClain actually does talk about the match at some point. But the overall impression that he gave is that he talks about everything else other than the match. Nigel, I heard y'all down in Georgia did some line dancing, and you and Fury had some beers and blah, ha, 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 ha. It's like he was, and there's points in that where Nigel is audibly trying to get this back on track. And then David just starts talking about something else and drags him off into that conversation. But I had to bring it up. Like, I had to write that down. That he was like, oh, yeah. Does he ever talk about the match? Yeah. But this is what I mean when I say that Dave McClain drags his commentating partners down. Rather than Nigel Zane or Stephen Dickey being in the booth or AJ Mendez, rather than them getting in the commentating booth and helping to raise David up, they have to do what he's doing, and so they come down. I liked Nigel when he first got there, but I mean, and he's still tolerable to me, but he's getting worse. He's doing the same thing that Stephen Dickey did. He's becoming the secondary voice of David McClain. So anyhow, I don't think I even started talking about this match yet. See, that's how engaging the whole thing with McClain and Zane and all that took place. Just got me all off track. But anyhow, McClain tries to sell Fury as the leader of the Heavy Metal Sisters. Now, we're not talking about the current Heavy Metal Sisters. He's talking about the previous incarnation of Heavy Metal Sisters was Razor and Mesmer. And even though in that same breath, he's like, Razor was the leader, but in terms of in-ring work, then, Fury was the leader. I was like, what? Okay, either Razor was the leader or she was not. Your in-ring work doesn't make you the leader. That's like somebody saying, hey, we got a coach out here, but this guy that's killing it on the court, he's the real coach. That there is such thing as locker room leaders. I get it. But the leader of the team is the leader of the team. And we haven't seen that. This is just revisionist history. Just like that whole deal when the Heavy Metal Sisters started breaking up, but we never really saw it. Now, which now that I say that out loud makes me feel like, well, what was the point of her getting back or starting a new Heavy Metal Sisters if she was so hell-bent on getting on her own and showing the world what she could do by herself? But that's another thing for another day. The match, fine. I think if you have listened to me at any given point, you know that I am not overly sold on Rebel Hayes. I want to give her credit where it's due to say she did good in this match. but I am not sold on her. She is so over animated. She is so much. I mean, I call Americana a cartoon. Rebel Hayes is a cartoon. Rebel Hayes looks like the lost member of a Kiss tribute band. Rebel Hayes looks like Gene Simmons and Raven the wrestler had a less talented kid. Rebel Hayes looks like a grunge singer that got cleaned up, or a 70-year-old wrote down what his idea of a grunge performer is. Rebel Hayes looks like somebody's creator wrestler creation on the WWE. I can go on. I could go on, but that's what she does. She just looks like those things. And the whole, devil horns and all that stuff that the rock on and all that stuff that she does not make it any better for me. So anyhow, moving past this, I thought the match was fine. Holidead and Chella clearly know what they're doing. I do believe that it is a wasted opportunity out of having them, if you're going to have them as a team. And I know I've said this in one of the previous podcasts, the joy, if you will, of having the odd couple team is showing the differences between the teams in certain environments. If ever there was a situation that would lend itself to making vignettes or backstage segments or interview segments or something like that, is those two. How have they not done anything with this? It's how are they getting along? Where's this friendship stemming from? Why is it that, clearly Holidead doesn't want to participate in the dancing and the whatnot, and she's not that type of person, but she likes Chantilly Chella for some reason. So why haven't we gone into that? Why haven't we explained? Holidead might not even know. She might just I don't even know why I like it, but I like it. Anything. We haven't gotten any of that. It's wasted opportunity to get the team over and help them grow and maybe get some people interested in seeing them actually win, opposed to you're supposed to cheer for them just because you're supposed to cheer for them. So anyhow, the rest of the match is important. The match is basically pretty cold. I don't mean that in the cold as in it was boring. If you're watching it, it's an enjoyable match. But cold in that it didn't stem from anything and it didn't lead to anything either. So we get to the end. Furious put out of the ring. Holidead calls Rebel Hayes to attack her, which sets her up to get posted in the corner. Holidead hoists Rebel Hayes up on her shoulders for what was known as the Steiner Bulldog. I don't know what they're going to call it, but Holidead was the base. Chella climbed up to the top rope and face planted Hayes from the top. 1, 2, 3. They win clean. And they have their little moment at the end where Holidead and Chella pointing at each other like which is, again, why I said they're missing opportunities. Chella starts dancing and Holidead just pretty much just grabs her arm and raises it like, no, we're not dancing. Just raise your hand. How do you not take advantage of that? For a show that's largely TV, how do you not do it? The next segment, Samantha Smart promo about the Beast. Classmaster is silly as usual. And Smart gives a promo in front of the chalkboard, which they have a lot of artwork on, so I don't know how that's supposed to make anybody feel like, well, clearly they must be a genius. They drew all this shit on the board. Classmaster, like I said, silly as usual. Come on, let's go. Right. Then they cut over to the Beast. Her promo is much stronger, but it's a Beast promo. and she talks through her growls. And then we get ready for the main event. Or at least they lead off into that. I put down a note that Classmaster could have had a reasonable run against the Beast instead of this throwaway match. And that she could have used a different manager. All due respect to Samantha Smart. Smart's pretty tall. And so it takes a little bit off of the fact that the Classmaster's 6'2" and she's taller than everybody else. It would have really accentuated the point if she had a smaller manager to represent her. Because, let's be honest, outside of the gimmick, they really have no reason to be together. You can take that gimmick off of the Classmaster and give her something normal and she can get a regular manager. She's not beyond saving. Even though this match did drive some nails in that coffin, it didn't drive the nail in the coffin. But, yeah, I maybe should have put that note down because, I really think that, let's just say Angelica Dante. Like, Dante is not a tiny woman, but she's small enough that if she was standing next to the Classmaster, she would accentuate the Classmaster's height. Samantha Smart can't do that. She's too tall for her. And they probably should have thought about that when they paired them off. Promo would have been good to lead this up, but they didn't do any of that except for here, which is, like I said, comedy. It was not great comedy, but it was comedy. And Smart did not hype up her client like she should have. She should have been putting everything, as hard as it might be, because the Classmaster is a dumb name, as hard as it might be to sell that seriously, she needed to be verbally putting the Classmaster over as the next best thing since an egg white omelet. And that didn't happen. There was no big fight feel here. The next segment was the beginning of that main event. Samantha Smart comes out cutting a promo, telling everyone to stand, raise your hands, and then, lower your hands. And then she says, this is how you bow to greatness. And the first thing I wrote was that I don't think Smart knows the definition of bow. This was a salute. What happened to that genius that she had? I was like, this isn't a bow. And same rules apply to what I said about Campanelli talking over Gloria Glitter. Same rules apply. She could have used some stronger material. This is the point where she should have been selling the Classmaster. They didn't have a program leading into this. They didn't have weeks of TV. This was a last minute sell. This is what that should have been. She should have been the hype person for this match. Of course, it should all have leaned itself towards her client, Classmaster. But at the same time, you don't down talk the Beast. You put the Beast over. She is an incredible athlete. She is the Wild Champion. She has mowed through this entire roster. She is the most dominant force that Wild has ever seen, at least up until the Classmaster came here. And then carried on from there, whatever. Failed opportunity, I feel. Not a ruining point for the entire episode, but failed opportunity. They took a break, and they came back. When they came back, they advertised Jay Boogie for next week. I wrote, ugh. And then they go into the match. The match of the Classmaster versus the Beast, which is supposed to be their two, dominant forces. The Beast has cut down every viable opponent that she could have had. I've said it before with Del Rey, Tormenta, Chainsaw, Vicky Lynn. Anybody that was looked at as comparable in size and power, She's already defeated without much build-up or lead-in. And this was no different. Now, I can say that I walked into this match fully expecting the Classmaster to lose because she walked out like an idiot. Read a book. Like it's hard to take someone as a threat when they don't come out doing the stuff that they're supposed to do. I don't know how else I can say it. I mean, are there villains out there in the world who are maniacal and funny and whatnot? Yeah. But the villain has to have some air of credibility to them at some point. Classmaster does not have that. And she didn't have that walking into this match, regardless of what Wow said. She didn't even get the chance to get the choke slam over as a big finish for her before she had this match. So the moment that they had at the end of the match was wasted. But that's Wow. But can you imagine if you were looking at, let's just say, John Wick, the first one, when he had to deal with the Russian. Can you imagine if on the phone when he's talking to John Wick about at least beginning to start the conversation to try to talk him out of what he's about to do, get the guns and go back into business and kill his son over the dog. Can you imagine if that dude just up and started telling jokes before this happened? Like if he was perceived as the funny guy, would you be taking him seriously by the time that John Wick gets up to him to challenge him? If he was just a clown with no sign of doing anything competently? Well, that's what the Classmaster is. She walks out like a clown and doesn't show any sign of doing anything competently, especially when she's telling people to read a book when it's largely a picture book of something that doesn't mean anything. In a cap and gown for something university that probably doesn't exist. I mean, I get it. Yes, she's not the first person to walk out in the ring with cap and gown on, but at least the people that did the cap and gown thing portrayed themselves as being a genius or I'm smarter than you or something like that. She's literally the opposite of this. She's the brawn. And it's not like she's the brawn in a delusional way where she thinks she's smart and she's just the muscle. She's the muscle. Just walking around telling people, read a book, be smart, That's how I view her. So regardless of whether she gets, and to her credit, when the bell rings, she gets serious. At least for the most part. She gets serious, and I have to give her credit for that. I do not want to take that away. But the overall package of the Classmaster does not lend itself for anybody to take serious or to even remotely think that she was going to win a championship. First off, the name sounds dumb. The Classmaster, Wow Champion. That's going to knock down the promotion a couple of notches right there. It's not something that anybody outside of that company will ever take seriously. Anyhow, moving on. Because I feel like I could just carry on the Classmaster for any number of minutes. So the match is being kind of built as a clash of titans, so to speak. Visually, it looks good. I have to admit that the visual look of the Classmaster over top of the Beast, who's the powerhouse champion, it looks good. They had a lockup at the beginning. They do the stalemate thing. They're trying to, get an advantage here. Neither one of us moving or budging or not giving ground, in the figurative sense. And it looks good that way. And when Classmaster forces her into the corner, the Beast pushes her out, that looks good. it's a slow match, and it looks like at times they're like thinking about, okay, what I'm supposed to do next, that type of thing. But other than that, I found the match enjoyable. Classmaster charges in for a big boot. Beast moves out the way. Beast tries to charge in. Classmaster moves out the way. I mean, it was fairly basic stuff. Even to it was a big man power match, even though they were neither men. But you get the point. They do the lockup. They do the test of strength, and the Beast immediately turns her around. Turns to Knuckles, and then she flips over and or like a release Northern Lights suplex. Takes her in the corner with a big clothesline. And the Beast looks good. Classmaster looks good. I don't like the name, and I don't like how she somewhat portrays herself walking to and from or in the backstage. But she looked good here. Stopped herself from getting suplex, held onto the rope, put her weight down, shoved the Beast into the turnbuckles. Big knee, forearm shot. It's slow plodding, but like I said, it's a big man match. It's an Andre and Big John stud. It's Sid Vicious and Undertaker. I mean, I don't know if I want to put them in those categories, but you understand what I'm saying. It's the style, even though Taker could move. Samantha Smart at some point does portray the manager as she should. She tried to interfere a little bit. I was proud of her for that, even though I still say that I don't think that she should be the manager of record for the Classmaster, but she got that yardstick. And I wish there was a different gimmick that she was using, but the yardstick works because she broke it over the Beast's back. And I was like, yes, that's how you do. If you're going to lay that thing in, lay it in. And she did. She should have got some applause in the back just for that. I was like, I don't know if that was agreed on. I don't know if they gimmicked the yardstick first. But if you're going to have a gimmick like a yardstick, something that doesn't provide a lot of damage, the least you can do is have a moment like that where you could crack it over somebody's back, because the audience, just on the sound and the sight of it alone, were like, ooh, it's just a natural reaction. So the match carries on. We've got this kind of back and forth. Grab here, the sidewalk slam there, submission hold, which I don't know if I would, encourage Classmaster using submission holds. Don't be no technical wrestler. Be the power. And in fact, outside of the Beast, most of them on that roster shouldn't be taking you off your feet. They need to be working to get you off of your feet. That's for the Classmaster. Anybody, like I said, outside of the Beast and maybe a select few, very few of them should be doing that. I don't know what the angle was in this particular moment here. I think that something got lost in translation, where Classmaster slams the Beast down towards the audience, right, the far end of the ring. Classmaster's talking to the referee. He's all up in her face and whatnot. She's distracting him. Samantha Smart is moving around like she wants to attack the Beast, but she can't, I guess. I don't know if it was because the Beast didn't get out there. But the Beast basically barks at Samantha Smart and backs her up before she was able to do the break later. Classmaster does a nice leg drop across the back of the head of the Beast. Then she does a nice leg drop on the throat of the Beast. But it ain't enough, because the Beast is a cyborg. And the Beast gets back up on the feet, and they try this thing again. They run at each other, and they do the double shoulder block. And they, shoulder hurts, but she doesn't give her ground. This match had a lot of, some basic moves, but because they were portrayed as being so strong, it worked for the both of them in this environment. Beast catches Classmaster with the body slam. Then she gets in Almost a backdrop / Uranagi combination. Classmaster is able to get out of it. And then she pulls herself out of the ring. Nice heel thing to do. Escape. So I like that. That's when the Beast comes out after her. That's when it got to the spot that I did like. Or another spot that I did like. I actually like most of the spots in this match. Ring of the Eyes by the Classmaster. Samantha Smart comes around and she turns the Beast and she whacks her with the yardstick. She whacks her again the second time, and then that third time, boom, right across the back, breaks it. I was like, all right, good job. Good job. Classmaster comes again, and like I said, the thing that sold it is that she broke it across her back. It's not going to knock her out. It's not going to incapacitate her. But most people would legitimately look at that and believe that it hurts and not want to be hit in the back with a goddamn yardstick. Classmaster tries to do something in the ring. Beast turns it around. Looks like she's going for a powerbomb. Classmaster is able to power herself out of it. And then we get to what is, well, I guess could have been the finish for the Classmaster. Takes her into the ring. Takes Beast into the center of the ring. Gets her in her choke slam position. Hoists her up, and then she nails her with the choke slam and immediately goes for the cover. And 1, 2, Beast kicks out. Now, let me pause here. This is why I said the match was fine, but they just did not go into it well. Classmaster, if you knew at any given point that she was going to potentially challenge for the title or against the Beast, that choke slam should have been used, and it should never have gotten kicked out by anybody once hit with it until you got to this match. She should have been mowing down that roster with this choke slam. The choke slam needed to be built up enough, as much as the Classmaster herself, but they didn't do that because they just let her go out here blind. And the audience didn't react. They reacted to her kicking out, but it was like no big thing. When it could have been a big thing. It could have been that the Classmaster had been just nailing people with that thing. Winning, back and forth, climbing up the ranks, being the unstoppable force, which is another thing that I didn't like that they did. They started off losing. And in those first couple of matches, like, these people beat her. Why wouldn't I think the Beast couldn't beat her? And I know it's a large part of that's like, well, WoW just hopes you forget. No, I didn't. I didn't forget. So both the person and the move, in my view, should have been built up before this match took place. This is just a throwaway match. Could have been bigger than this. And the thing that gets it, they wouldn't have had to change much of anything in the match itself. They wouldn't have had to change almost anything in the match itself had these two been built up. The Classmaster specifically built up to where she would have been a viable, believable challenge to where you could get people to suspend their disbelief just for a moment that, hey, she might actually win this thing. But as it is, like, who would believe it? Who would believe that the Classmaster would or could win? So she kicks out of the chokeslam. Classmaster says, oh my God, she's amazed. I can't believe this. Beast gets up, does her, I'm angry, I done had all I can stand and I can't stand no more moment. Classmaster tries to charge her with the big boot. Beast ducks underneath that, comes back at her, here's the spear, nails the Classmaster, goes for the cover 1, 2, then she backs up. Now, I don't know what that was about. I don't know if she just wanted to put the punctuation on it. I don't know if she was too close to the rope. I don't know if it was audible or not. If it was an audible, then I'm fine with that. I'm good with it. I like that she went the extra mile to polish off her opponent and show dominance. So when she gets back up, she basically walks back over to the other side of the ring all over again, and she waits for the Classmaster to get up a second time. And And once the Classmaster pulls herself up by the ropes and she sees the Beast, he tries to charge out again, and the Beast takes her with a second spear, cuts her in half, folds her over. 1, 2, 3. We're done. And as I said, the match isn't bad. In fact, I enjoyed the match for what it was. I just think that if there had been some build to it, if there had been something that you could believe in the Classmaster as a viable threat to the Beast, we all would have gotten more out of this. The audience there, the audience watching at home, people listening to this podcast, the people in that locker room, we all would have gotten more out of that if they had attempted to build the Classmaster or any opposition to the Beast first, rather than having the Classmaster walk into that company without a plan, and they didn't have one. They cannot tell me that they did. If they had one, it's ridiculous. Walking in there without a plan, having to lose over and over and over again, and then suddenly deciding, all right, we're going to rehabilitate her so we can have her challenge for this title that she's not going to win. They should have done more to generate interest in this match. And that was the overall note. The entirety of the show did very little to generate interest in any specific matchup. It's just a series of matches. And they did tie in one thing. They tied in the top tier angle to the All-American Girls match too. But the first match wasn't really anything. Second match had the only tie-in that we really know of. Third match, Heavy Metal Sisters, Chantilly and Holidead, was just another one. And this match, the main event, was just a fourth in a series of matches. Didn't really do anything. Not really a lot of stuff taking place behind the scenes or backstage, I should say. Vignettes, interviews, podcasts. Nothing helped build any of this. It's just a series of matches. I don't know what else I can say. The more I hear there's new people that walked into our little hub, by the way. So there's more people that's watching this show. In my circle, I should say. But the more I hear new casuals and coworkers watch WoW, the more I realize the uphill battle that WoW is facing in terms of perception. Because casual viewers seem to look for problems in the matches, whether there are problems in the match or not. It's the we make fun of what we don't understand scenario, and that's how it comes across. It's like they go into that show looking for issues. So much to the point that it's like I find myself having to defend the WoW from time to time, and I was like, no, she didn't. No, that's supposed to be that way. No, she did that right. No, she does. She knows what she's doing. Like that's happening more and more. And one of which I'm just gonna say I created a monster in that because him asking any question, and I'm not gonna mention his name, asking any questions in that room, basically lent himself to now thinking he can see everything in the match, and he goes into it looking for problems all the time. She didn't do that right. It's like, no, she did it. She did it fine. It's like anything that wasn't executed perfectly in his head, he immediately assumes they screwed up. But the sad part is that carries on. He says it loud enough to where other people carry on, then they catch on to it and they agree. And it goes on and on and on and on. Which is why I said previously, those botches and things that take place on the show and in the matches, you do not need to be leaving those in there. Because it's not just painted as a botch from that person. It's painted as a botch on the entirety of that product. I said it in the last one. They don't know what they're doing. They messed up. This is stupid. WoW is dumb. I've heard all of that. And it's never painted as that individual. That individual just becomes the representation of the product overall. There are people that are on that roster who have fought through that. Some of which have either the look, skill set, intensity, verbal, whatever you want to call it, that made people just kind of pay attention and not poke holes, even though they've tried. I can say some have still tried, but Jessie Jones, particularly when she applies her arm bar, with the exception of people that's in there that's like really into MMA, most of them don't really see any holes in that. Ozzy, the Mighty Mites, Beast, Del Rey, who else is in there that has gotten like a pot? Rush at points, surprisingly. I know probably wasn't expecting that, but Keita Rush. Those are the ones that seem to garner the most ability to fight through people just wanting to find problems. Like, they found problems in every one of those matches, but as the match progresses, they seem to wane that down. Whereas, I'll use the Mother Truckers as an example. Whereas with the Mother Truckers, it gets really hard for the adults in the room, and that's everybody, to get past the gimmick and get past them talking. They just look at them as like, man, because the second they pick up a microphone, they go off into, oh God, let's just, that's what happens. And that go back to the same thing. It's a broad brush. They're not saying the Mother Truckers are a problem. They say wow is a problem. Wow is ridiculous. But in any case, the entirety of this show, if I'm going to grade the show, I'm going to say that this is very, very below, well, not very below average. It is just below average. Like, there's almost nothing here to tie this in together. They have one angle, and that's pretty much it. And a main event that they wanted you to care about without any sort of build or really explanation, rhyme or reason. I'm not even sure if we were ever even told why the Classmaster got a title match to begin with. Beyond the fact that she just got a title match. Because WoW wanted them to have it. Whereas in other cases, they make people jump through hoops. There is a lack of consistency in that universe at times when we have those things like that. You have a number one contenders match for some people. Others just walk into a title shot. You be completely undefeated for 3 or 4 years, and that's not good enough. But then you have a wild card for somebody who's been gone for a year and a half, and they just walk into a championship match. All of these things are things that have happened, by the way. It's not like I'm making it up. Yeah. WoW and its programming. So anyhow, we've gone through that. I think it's the point where I go through the press release that was sent to me, because I understand some of you out there do not actually get to see WoW broadcast. Some of you only get to see it via YouTube. And since YouTube is so, I can't blame YouTube. Let me rephrase that. Since whoever runs WoW's social media or edits the show for YouTube specifically chops it up so much, it may be a little difficult to tell which segment goes where and what order it played. So I understand that me going segment by segment has helped some people, so they can duplicate it to some degree. Because some have found out that the quote full episode that WoW puts on YouTube is not an actual full episode. For whatever reason, I don't know why. It's never been explained to me. No one's contacted me and said, well, they do that because of this. For whatever reason, when they take the full episodes that were aired on television and they put it on YouTube, they remove all the backstage stuff or any interviews that they did happen to take place. So it's just match. Don't know why. It's just the way it is. Maybe somebody will reach out and say it eventually, like, look, that's just the way he likes it. I don't know. And that's the answer I expect. It's just the way that he likes it. So anyhow, preview time. If you want to skip ahead and be surprised, then here's your time to do it. If not, here we go. The next episode is going to be episode 243. The title is going to be Twin Turmoil. 4 weeks ago, the Fabulous Four took on the Beast and the Island Dynasty, building tensions to our action-packed opening match tonight as former Wild World Champion Penelope Pink battles tiny but mighty Tiki Chamorro. Little J Boogie makes her way as a singles competitor, but will she be able to shimmy her way to a win against the cool and collected Ice Cold? Animal Instincts, Goldie Collins, and Katarina Jinx face off in tag team action against the cheerful duo of Pep Riley and Sasha Sparks. With hostility higher than ever between Lana Star's Fabulous Four and the Tonga Twins, both teams fight it out in the explosive main event. I am already uninterested. How many more times do I need to sit through and I thought, foolishly apparently, I thought that the Tonga Twins and Miami Sweet Heat, because let's be honest, we know who it is. I thought that was done when they quit quit. I'd already said that the match was getting diminishing returns because nothing new takes place in these matches. It's not like they have amazing chemistry with each other like the New Day and the Usos or something, or Triple X and America's Most Wanted. You have to look that thing. I know that's 20 years ago, but you have to look it up. Anyhow, yeah, that main event does not appeal to me. And when did Pep Riley and Sasha Sparks get back together? Didn't Team Spirit just dissolve? Why are they tagging? I mean, beyond the fact that they stuck at these stupid cheerleader gimmicks, which I don't really understand the point of that now. Wasn't the only reason that there was cheerleader gimmicks to begin with is because Coach was forming the team? If they're not with her, then why bother? Anyhow, I'm not even going to start with Lil J Boogie right now. I'll have to watch that match and see it before I lose my mind thinking about how awful it could possibly be. So, there is the show, and that was the full review. If you are so inclined and you want to catch this any place else, you can always check for this podcast on greater podcast platforms everywhere. Assuming that you're not listening to this on YouTube. Which, of course, if you are, do the YouTube things to like, share, and subscribe. But if you are listening to it on one of the greater podcast platforms, thank you. A little review there might help. If you can't find it on that, but you want to be able to download it, just want the MP3 so you can take it on the go, but you don't know where to go to find it, go to our website, WPNWrestling.com. It's the nexus for everything that has happened there, including all the podcasts. And there's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week stream that has matches, interviews, some video gameplay that just, I was bored. But it's there all the time, and it does feature some faces that you will know in years before they became famous. Some people from AEW right now, some people in Ring of Honor right now, some people in WWE right now, and WoW for that matter. So you can go there, you can tune in. It is on right now. is always on WPNWrestling.com. And with that, I think we've covered almost everything that there is to cover in this episode. Yes. So this must be the time to close it out. So for you that have tuned in, thank you very much for joining me again. I do appreciate it. And I appreciate all the feedback. I appreciate everyone that has messaged publicly and privately. Thank you very much. And with that, this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, and we'll see you on the next go round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.